Some names carry their own cold wind. Say them aloud, and it feels as though a door has closed somewhere behind you. The Tower of London is one of those names. Death here was rarely sudden. It moved slowly, like damp spreading through stone, eating away at hope, teaching fear to live inside the body. Chains scraping across the floor, the dull sound of iron tools, the breath of a man realizing that no doctor, no prayer, no mercy would reach him in this place. For more than 9 centuries, these walls have absorbed such moments, layer upon layer, until the fortress itself seems to remember. What truly lies beneath these foundations? How can lifeless stone still hold the weight of so much cruelty? Today, with the help of modern reconstruction, we step back through the centuries to meet the tower as it once was, raw, brutal, and unafraid of the suffering it caused. 1078 to 1100. The blood-stained stones. Look first at the strip of land along the Thames. Before the fortress, this was part of London's open breath, a riverside where trade and ordinary life flowed together. By 1078, that freedom was ending. The White Tower began to rise, and with it, a new order. The old wooden houses suddenly looked fragile beneath the shadow of the pale stone walls. The tower did not grow with the city, it grew above it, as if to remind every street and every citizen who now held power. Paths that had existed for generations were cut away. Familiar views were blocked by hard gray blocks. Streets became narrow corridors watched from high arrow slits. Space that once belonged to people now belonged to control. Come closer. Let the past clear a little. Across the ground lie massive stones, scattered like the bones of some enormous creature. Rough scaffolding climbs upward, thin and desperate against a pale sky. Laborers move through mud mixed with sharp fragments, backs bent, faces blank with exhaustion. There is no glory here, only forced work and the smell of quicklime that burns the throat. Listen to the sound. Metal striking stone, again and again, thrown back by walls that refuse to soften it. Even noise feels trapped. The workers do not raise their eyes. To look up is to be reminded how small they have become. Each step seems to bury a little more of their former freedom beneath the foundations. Was this a masterpiece or the first layer of a vast stone grave? From these beginnings, the tower learned its true purpose. 12th to 13th centuries, expansion and hidden traps. The construction sites fade behind us, and the tower enters a new age. It is no longer a single building, but a growing organism, spreading outward with appetite. Under Richard the Lionheart and Henry III, the fortress thickened its skin, wrapping itself in curtain walls and watchtowers, determined to be untouchable. Imagine drifting toward it in a small boat across the dark moat. The water is heavy and cold, the walls rising higher than seems possible. Do you feel welcome or already judged? The moat forms a black ring around the fortress, a boundary meant not simply to stop escape, but to erase the very idea of it. The surface hardly moves, yet it hides more than mud. The towers above stare down through narrow windows like unblinking eyes. A single careless step could lead to a trap door, a twisting stair, a fall into silence. Look at the iron doors, the drawbridges ready to drop, the thin slits where arrows waited. Every element speaks the same language, vigilance without mercy. From above, the tower reveals itself as a machine of fear, where architecture itself became a weapon. In such a place, who was truly imprisoned? The captives below, or the kings behind their own walls?
14th to 16th centuries. The Traitor's Gate. The walls and the moat were meant to keep enemies out, but with time the tower learned another purpose, to receive those who had once stood closest to power. Look into the fog that clings to the riverside. Behind it yawns a low stone arch, half swallowed by shadow. This is the Traitor's Gate. By now the tower was no longer only a fortress. It had become the final address for fallen favorites, disgraced advisors, and queens who had stepped one breath too far. Picture yourself in a small wooden boat rocking on the black water. The oars dip softly, as if afraid to make noise. You already know the destination. No one needs to speak it. The arch grows larger, damp walls sliding past close enough to touch. Moss, river mud, and something heavier, despair, hang in the air. The prisoners sit in silence. They do not look at each other. They do not look at the guards. Their eyes are fixed in the darkness ahead, where the passage bends toward the dungeons. Stone and water have joined here to create a patient trap. When the iron gate lowers behind the boat, ask yourself, what hope would remain? This was more than an entrance. It was a border between two worlds. Those who crossed it were not thieves or beggars. They were names once spoken with respect, nobles, ministers, even queens. The current beneath the hull seems to carry away the last fragments of their former lives. The walls narrow, the air tightens, and the tower assumes its most terrible identity, a royal prison where waiting alone could break a soul. Passing through the gate did not promise death. It promised something slower. Very few who entered ever walked out again. 16th century, the chamber of pain. If the Traitor's Gate locked hope outside, the steps descending to the dungeons crushed what remained of it. Follow carefully. The light above grows thin. The air thickens, damp and cold, as though the stones themselves have learned to breathe suffering. Rusted iron shapes lie in the half-dark, silent yet somehow eager. There are no screams now, only a heavy stillness that knows what is coming. Before you stands the rack, a frame built to stretch a body beyond its own design. Each slow turn pulls at tendons and joints, not only breaking bone, but unraveling belief. Beside it waits the scavenger's daughter, folding a man inward until breath becomes a luxury. Are these tools of justice or the architecture of madness? Shadows slide across the walls, the shadows of those whose duty was to break scholars, priests, rebels, anyone whose truth displeased a crown. Here confession mattered more than reality. Within walls meters thick, sound has nowhere to go. Every plea swallowed, and stone becomes an accomplice. At night the dungeon awakes without light. Listen long enough, and you may no longer know whether the wind is speaking or something human that once was. By this century, the tower needed no public warnings. The knowledge of these chambers was enough to bend a kingdom. Many walked out alive, yet none remained who they had been. Tower Hill, the axe in the open. After the darkness below, history stepped into daylight. On Tower Hill, death became a spectacle. Crowds gather in the thousands, eyes fixed on a simple wooden platform. A beam, a block, an axe, nothing more was required. Sunlight flashes along the blade, perhaps the last brightness a condemned face will ever meet. Weave through the murmuring people. Great names appear stripped of titles, reduced to fragile bodies. Anne Boleyn kneels on Tower Green, granted the privacy of royalty. The sword falls so swiftly, the moment almost hides itself. Lady Jane Grey, not yet 20, is led before the public mass. Blindfolded, she reaches out, asking in panic, "Where is the block?" The question hangs in the air, even after the axe answers it. Crows wait on the roofs, patient as the tower itself. These deaths were lessons, displays written in blood to remind a city who ruled it. Today, the hill is quiet grass, yet look closely at the faces in the crowd of the past. Do you see justice or the hunger of witnesses eager for cruelty?
The tower, in the present, 2 times at once. Welcome to the tower. Today, visitors arrive with tickets in their hands, cameras ready, voices bright with curiosity. Yet the past has not left this place. It lies over the present like a second film, transparent but impossible to ignore. The yeoman warders walk in their red uniforms, guiding steps through courtyards where shadows still know older paths. Their eyes drift, almost without meaning to, toward corners where stories refuse to sleep. Black ravens move across the grounds, heavy wings cutting the air. Legend says that if they ever depart, the kingdom will fall. They remain as silent witnesses, stretching a thread from medieval fear to modern day. As you leave and merge with the crowds of the 21st century, one question follows you out through the gate. If these walls could speak, would they forgive or only remember? The tower stands not as a victor, but as a survivor. How many entered accused of treason, and how many were simply victims of power wearing the mask of law? Has history truly ended here, or has it only changed its clothing? Imagine yourself in another age, standing before these same walls. Would you be among the spectators, or the next name called? A final thought. Stories like this live only while they are shared. If this journey through the tower's past held your attention, leave a like so others can find it, and add your thoughts in the comments. I read them carefully. If you would like to continue exploring places where history still breathes, consider subscribing so you do not miss the next step into another century. Thank you for walking these stones with me. Until the next time.